Now I want to do another live video, and one of the things that I've found is interesting is obviously to find the right place to share when I start to share is how do you actually prepare with your SAP integration or integration in general? If you can hear me, just put it into the chat. I'd like to hear what's going on, and if you're actually able to hear what I'm saying, it's always nice to know. So please, if you're live, just say hello. Want to learn what's going on? Yes. So one of the things that I think is really interesting and something that you as an architect need to understand is, or integration architect or enterprise architect, is that you're going to get a lot new ways of handling integration, and you need to understand how do you actually deal with these. Perfect. It's great you can hear me. How do you deal with all the types of integration that's going on, and what's going on to be the future of the integration that you have? And I think a lot of time when you're out working on a project, you suddenly find, well, we need to get this specific kind of integration or pattern working, and how do we support it? So let me just share the screen. Not that, this one. So as you can see, one of the things I find is interesting is actually this about planning your integration. And I think one of the cool concepts here is the ISAM. It's probably not the only thing you need, but it's definitely a good way to get started understanding what's going on in your landscape and who is in charge and what's going on. So let's just get started. If you have questions, comments, just put them into the chat. I really would love that. And if you're using this or anything that relates, I would love to hear your comments and thought of this. So I think that the key concept here is this thing about preparing for the unexpected. How do you actually make sure that when you're dealing with these things, you're able to account for them as fast as possible? I think that's what I wanted to cover in this, and why it's actually a good thing you need to do it. So when we're talking about integration in general, there's a lot of different types of patterns in it. There's, I guess, probably not here on this slide. There's A2A integration, there's B2B integration, there's cloud user, mobile data, whatever, all these different things that you call, and they're all different, and it's difficult to knowing what you'll be needing in the future, and obviously who is in charge of this, because you may have specific users that is involved with the mobile, and then obviously mobile integration is not a topic, but it could be, and you need to figure out how do you deal with these things. And as an architect, this is what you need to understand: what kind of integration options exist, and how do we support it in our organization. And I think just taking a slide from the ISAM, I'll show you later how you can get it, the full ISAM methodology and much more on it. I will not cover it in this one, just give you some ideas about one of the key concepts that I think is a takeaway from it. And we talked about the different type of integration you have, and as you can see here, there's quite a number of different types of integration. We got some user to on-premise, on-prem to on-prem, things to on-prem, cloud to on-prem, and all these kind of integration. How are they supposed to be handled? What's going on in these cases? And you obviously need to understand which of them you have, and it obviously depends on your landscape. But the idea is to understand what's going on in this case, and then be able to leverage these. I also find this really interesting, and it's about being more proactive about what you're doing. So obviously, you as an architect or developer could sit back, and then once the business come and say, okay, here we got your proposal for a new project. Don't lesson learned, don't share anything that breaks the green screen. Is that you can see, okay, there's a topic we need to integrate, figure out how to deal with this. And that's kind of the ad hoc strategy. Well, you will just say, okay, you want something, here is how you can get it, and this is how this goes on. And then you can go to a more mature, actually defining, if we have this type of integration in the future, what are we supposed to be doing? Understanding where you're going to be, define what kind of integration tools you have, which patterns is best supported in these cases, and then give this to more consultants. And I think a lot of these things also correlated to the last podcast or the last live video that I did, where I did talk about onboarding people, onboarding consultants. And the more of these things, the more mature you are in the organization, the easier it becomes, because you have the document that says, if you need to do this integration, this is how we deal with it. This is important. These kind of things matters to us. So I don't know if it's over the next couple of years, or it's tomorrow, or whatever it's going to be, but you will be facing this dilemma that you need to support a new type of integration. And obviously, if it's some people that are businesses that are well prepared and know that in 80 months time or 5 months time, we need to create this let's say success factors integration project, and then you can go through and figure out, okay, how do we integrate with success factors, Salesforce or whatever, what would be the best option, and schedule a plan and tooling. But it could also be that you have a project where the timeline is already due, you needed to do it last week, and the more prepared you are for some of these things, the easier it will actually be for you to implement this. So this week, some of the things I've been talking about, and was one guy that had some data integration from the cloud, where they had a lot of data, and I can't remember which hyperscaler it was that created a lot of data, and they wanted to get this data from the cloud to the on-prem system, post the documents. And if you have any examples, please put them below about things you are not really prepared for, but suddenly appeared, and you needed to understand, how do we deal with these things? So they needed to figure out what was the best way to deal with these things, and asking, is it PI or CPI? And it's like there is a lot of questions and challenges. Which strategy defines better? And obviously, for some use cases, one may be other. Whereas, and if you have both tools, obviously it's pretty simple. If you have not, for instance, CPI, then that is out of the question for that specific use case. Another one was if you needed to expose some APIs on the gateway system to third parties. How do you, what's the normal approach to deal with that? How do you expose it in an easy, controllable manner that makes it possible for customers to, or whatever, partners to integrate with these things? And I think these kind of challenges is something you need to understand and leverage. How do we deal with these things? What's the best way to engage with these things? And if you have anything like this, some new kind of patterns that you did not see before, plus like to hear them, just put them into the chat. I would love to see that, some examples there, or send me a direct message on these things. So I think that the best way is obvious to learn and get access to the ISA-M methodology. You can get the link here, and there you can read a lot more about it from Matthias Algar, I think it was, that wrote this blog, and seeing what it is able to do, who has all the different steps in it, because obviously it's not just about a presentation. It's about you actually doing some work on understanding what are our current roadmap and what's the future roadmap that we have, and how do we deal with these things. And yeah, it's as and the people I've talked with that have done it, it is not going to be easy, but the more you do in advance and the more you prepare and understand, if we have this pattern, this is how we solve it, the easier it's gonna be, because with that in mind, you already know the architecture that you're going to support. Yes, that was a lot of the things I wanted to cover. If you have questions, comments, feedback, just put it into the chat. I'd love to hear your take on these things. If there's anything I missed, if you have gone through the ISAM process and understood, and it gave you some insights on how to leverage your integration in a better way, I'd love to hear that. But yeah, this is not really something that, yeah, it will take long time, and you'll not be done, and you will probably be missing some of these different patterns that suddenly appear, either because you have blind spotted, but at least you would then know what is the process to add for these things. How do we deal with all these new requirements that are coming up, and what's important in that perspective. So I hope you liked it. If you did, hit the like, hit the subscribe, follow, or whatever is on the platform you're watching on it. But I appreciate your time and spending some time with me here today. It's just to say thank you, and glad you could join this session. Thanks.